Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's episode on perks of being a teacher. I am filming this at home during the May long weekend, and I thought I would show you today how I plan for a whole week of teaching. So in this video, you're going to see me working on a document. You're going to see how I create my schedule for the week, and then I'm also going to be showing you things that students will be working on. So it'll show you some final projects and little activities that will be going on this week. So I really hope that you enjoy this week's episode. Please comment below, and as always, subscribe. Welcome to the desktop of my computer. I'm going to start by opening up a new document in Pages. And I'm going to be making just a table that shows you my plan for the week. And I'm not just making this for you, it's something I always use and always create. So I'm going to title this document Weekly Plan, and I'm saving it to my desktop. And here I'm selecting a table. So these are just edits that I always make to tables that I put into Pages. I make the lines around each square more profound, and I make it so that the table won't move if I add text. I'm changing the row color, and the columns at the top I'm changing to a pink color. And I usually like two colors in tables, so I'm going to choose a lighter pink color for this side. This is completely unnecessary when planning a week. I love the way things look when I put time into it. So this is more of a hobby for me, and not necessarily something that everyone has to do. So what I realized is that the table didn't really work good in portrait, so I changed it to landscape, and here I'm just adding the correct number of columns for the days of the week. I find that having lots of empty white space in squares and tables makes the tables much easier to read. So now I'm changing to center the text within the table. And now probably my favorite part is to play with fonts. I love finding fonts online, and I'm starting with the Morning Rainbow. So let's see what it looks like. So I'm just typing in the days of the week, and this is only the days of a teaching week. On tables like this, I don't put in the weekend. And just adding extra rows for the different slots of the day. So here I'm gonna try a different font. Chewy is one of my favorites. I hesitated there because I use Chewy so much, but I just love the way it looks. I don't have a slot 1 class, so I don't really include slot 1 in this table. This is mostly just for teaching. So you can see I have slot 2, 3, lunch, slot 5, slot 6. And just making the font bigger. So here I decide I prefer Chewy, so I'm going to change the font to Chewy. And I'm going to make the font big enough so that it's easy to read, but not too big so that the letters make an extra line. Again, just I'm always trying to maximize this white space that would exist in each square, so I'm making the table as big as possible. So I'm adding in which classes I have. Slot 2 is technically Canadian history, but I was that's going to take up too much space, so I just labeled it history. Slot 3 I have geo, slot 5 history, and then slot 6 is family studies. So like I mentioned, this is for the long weekend. So on the Monday, I don't have work. I am changing the color of the squares to something like, I'm trying to get a really, really light pink. And then I'm going to merge all of the cells so you don't have those individual lines. And now I need to choose the font for the inside boxes. So Chewy I like for titles, but one of my favorite fonts is Graphic for all of the text that's going to go inside the boxes. So I'm just titling, it's just like no school. So there's nothing to prep for that day. So now I'm going to start planning the week. And I'm starting with Friday because on Friday my history classes always have current event presentations. So students will be presenting on Friday, and I'm going to show you the picture of what those current events look like. Here you can see the current events assignment that my students get. They have to choose any current event that's happened in the past couple weeks, create a question to pose to the class, and create a brief presentation to share what happened in the event, the question that they have, and then lead a discussion with their peers. It's a great thing to do to have students engaged in what's going on in the world. On Wednesday, I'm hosting a lunch and learn, and now I'm just like thinking, like, what do I want to put in next? Clearly, I don't have a specific order that I put in my planning. I'm just like mentioning the first things that come to mind. So I have in my planner that there's a fire drill Wednesday in slot 5, so I added that in, and now I realize that I have evening stuff going on related to work, so I made an extra row for evening things. So on Thursday and Friday I am supervising Beauty and the Beast, our musical production at FRC. So I just copy and pasted that for Thursday and Friday from 5 to 9 p.m. Okay, so now I'm adding in things that our Indigenous Student Success teacher is doing with my history classes this week. So she is doing 2 days of a blanket activity, and then after the blanket activity, a debrief. And my class is so fortunate to have her in our class. She adds such an important perspective to the topics that we are learning about. So right now we are focusing on Indigenous history and reconciliation. On Thursdays, I always have Earth Club, so that's what I'm adding in here. I'm all over the place. On Thursday, we're going to be potting plants because we're going to be doing a fundraiser next week. This is the poster for our sale that we're having. Every lunch hour, we kind of do a craft or like activity with Earth Club. It's such a good time. So what's driving me wild in this document is that I didn't get rid of the headers and footers. So whenever I put my mouse over where the headers and footers are, it like shows these boxes. So that's why I got rid of that. And now I'm adding in some geo stuff. So they're going to have a quiz. It's actually like our first quiz of the course. I don't really do a lot of quizzes. So a quiz, and then they are going to be researching for their roles in the final project. And now you can just see a mapping out the week for my geo kids. They're going to research for their roles in their final project. And on Thursday, they're going to create plans for their roles. So they're going to be creating presentations where they're going to be pitching to their class their plans. And here for Friday, they're going to be presenting their presentations to the class, but it's likely going to be Monday. And I think it's a great time now to show you what the final project is. The final project is called Fort Dune Collegiate, a Geographic Whole Class Experience. This is the scenario that students are given. Feel free to pause. This symbol shows in the presentation when students are going to use a journal, and these are the journals that I purchased off Amazon. So these journals I'm going to be keeping in my classroom, and I'll put students' names on each one. So students will have their own journal. I'll hand them out at the beginning of each class and then collect them at the end of each class so they won't go home, which prevents them from getting lost. So these journals will be used throughout the entire project. And whenever students see that symbol, it shows them when they need to write in their journal. Next, I show students what they're being graded on. You can see an aspect of self-assessment at the bottom. First, we assign roles. Students get to choose from all of these different roles, and these will be the perspective they see from in their project. Next, we gather and document ideas, which of course includes research, where students will research 3 different cities in relation to their role. This will help them plan what they present to students as how we're going to build their part of the city. You'll present a PowerPoint to students where students will be able to ask questions, and those questions will definitely create problems where plans will definitely need to be adjusted to answer students' questions. So then we problem solve. Students will have a good chunk of time to address problems that arise through the question period. And lastly, create a city through collaboration with one another. Students will also write daily reflections after each day of building. Here I'm just adding in extra details. So the Lunch and Learn is on multiculturalism and colorblindness, a critique. Family Studies students are starting their final projects, so they're going to be researching. They've already started their research, so they're going to be continuing their research. And I've mentioned in previous videos, a huge part of project-based learning is having devices. So I'm making notes for myself to make sure that I have devices for students. And I always have goals each day. So Tuesday, Wednesday, the goal will be research. And then the goal for Friday is for students to start their representations. And I'm going to show you what their final projects are going to look like. I think I've shown them in previous videos, but let's take a look to see what their final projects are. All right, here's their final project where they have lots of choice in their topic and their representations of learning. If you'd like to take notes about this project, I encourage you to pause the video here. So here I've just made in extra notes to conference with students, which I just put it in so I don't forget to do it. It can become easy to get wrapped up in the continuous questions students ask with PBL, but sitting down and having one-on-one meetings is crucial to their success. So I'm just adding it in so that I'm intentional with my planning. So what I did here is I moved actually all the text to the top, because if things come up in the week, I then have room at the bottom of the boxes to write stuff in. As I actually book devices, now you can see that I'm adding my notes of which devices I have. So Tech Tab 5, these are like packages of like a set of 6 laptops, which is usually sufficient for a whole class, because sometimes students work together, sometimes students bring their own devices, and so on. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. Here I'm just doing little edits because I love the look of, like I said, white space. It just makes everything easier to read. My last step is always to export the file as a PDF, and then I upload it to my OneDrive, and it is good to go. So what do you think of the episode? This week, since it's going to be the week after the May long weekend, it's a shorter week and there's not like as much to plan. I'm also like super grateful, like I said, for our Indigenous student success teacher to be joining us this week. We are so lucky to have her showing us all of her knowledge. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, and stay tuned for next week's episode on perks of being a teacher. Subscribe and comment below. Bye everybody.